Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. So you go to the beach. Most of the world's population is not too far from a body of water, but some of you may never get to a beach, but I'm sure you'll understand what I'm about to say. So you go to the beach, the waves are rolling in on the shore, and hopefully the beach you're on has sand, in this example anyway. And you've got your little pail and your whatever, your implements, and you make what your version of a sandcastle is with all of the parameters that you're working with. Maybe you have pails and shovels. Maybe you're just doing it with your hands, whatever. You build some kind of a structure in the sand. And then you look at it, you watch it, and then the tide rises and the waves start to lap against your structure, your constructed castle. And very obviously and steadily, your castle starts to disappear. Oh my gosh, your castle is gone. The waves finally overcome all of your structure, and there's no trace of your castle anymore. Your castle is gone. And where did it go? It's just sand after all. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for being an incredible searcher of truth, a Buddhist, a practitioner of the Lotus Sutra, the method of enlightenment, yes? So why do I talk about this sandcastle? Because I want to make a really physical example. It's not complete in how far it reaches into understanding this, but the process, very simple to understand, is an example I want to give you of karma. Because there's still a tremendous amount of confusion about karma in the world today, if anyone is even asking the question, right? As practitioners of Shakyamuni's teachings of the Lotus Sutra and his teachings in general, this is a central question. If you don't understand karma, or if you, more accurately, misunderstand karma, then the idea of enlightenment and what Shakyamuni was teaching, it simply won't reach you. You'll be completely misinformed and deluded about what he was teaching. So once again, the sand, constructed into some form, then dissolves. Have we lost the form? Have we lost the castle? Well, the form and the castle, they're all temporary constructs anyway. It's really visual at our level of senses to watch the sand crumble and go back into its original form. This is where the analogy falls short. But what we don't see is how many minute particles of sand the breeze and the wind carried away from our structure. We didn't even notice that, right? How much of the water is actually holding the sand together in this construction? Oh, we don't pay any attention to that. We can't even see it. Right? There's a lot of unseen goings on in our samsaric construction of a thing. And this is the essential point. And to carry that point a little further, to really relate it to Shakyamuni's teaching, we look upon our constructed castle with such pride. Look what I made, Mom, or Dad, or brother, or sister. Look what I made. And then when the sea takes it away, ah, I've lost my castle. Feelings of loss. Can I make another one? Maybe I should make more so that I could have a greater chance of having them. And by so doing, I can prove again how important my presence is, how indelible my presence is, my identity. This is the whole teaching of the Dharma. That feeling of excitement and that feeling of loss ultimately are based on nothing. They're invented constructions of identification, constructing again an ego about it, a self-identity that we hold as primary. From this delusion comes the magical, mystical mind of an afterlife. We just can't lose that castle. It's still in there somewhere. No, it's gone. You can construct a new one, but it's still a construction. Why are you investing your identity in something so temporary, so temporary, it actually, even as you witness it, it's empty of any permanence. It's empty of any realness. It's just a temporary construction. And identifying it is entertaining, but it's no more than that. It's just a formation tracking existence, time, sentience. Right? It's our sentience that can peer through this illusion. Without sentience, we're with a more base kind of samsaric mind of experience. We just do things in cycles. We're just trapped in cycles of doing, because the doing, the energy of doing, is the very same energy that manifested the atoms and molecules in our bodies, the atoms and molecules in the trees, the atmosphere, the planets, the stars, the universe, that which we call life. Life is an expression of energies, amalgams in myriad combination, or as I often say, instantiations of potential. It's what everything is. The instantiation part, the formation that leads to the form, that's karma. Just like the sands and the water and the air and the pressure and the myriad constructs you can dig into that allow for you to create a sandcastle, a temporary thing isn't really a thing, right? The sandcastle doesn't exist in the beach. It exists in your mind, and your mind is attached to the idea that you've actually made some permanent thing. This is life. This is the illusion from which Shakyamuni identifies. That's where all your suffering comes from. That's where all your feelings of way overblown excitement. For what? For loss of something that never really existed to begin with. You're flattering your own actions. Be aware of your actions. Be aware of how amazing life is that supports all of this action. But liberate yourself from that owning you, identification. It's not karma's fault that you got overly excited. It's not karma's fault that you feel destroyed, that your sandcastle is gone. It's you that's inventing all of that. And you're inventing it based on the fallacy that your constructions are real. That doesn't mean things don't exist. See, this is another confusion. And because we don't understand karma, we then are led to this idea that everything is a dream, that nothing is real. That's not what Shakyamuni was saying, not at all. What occurs in our mind is a real, tangible experience, palpable, I should say. Right? That's real. But it's real, and this is key, once again, if you understand karma, it's real moment to 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 moment. The previous moment, no longer valid. Yes, we have memories of those moments. That's part of our attachment. Memory is attachment. That doesn't mean you shouldn't respect experience, because that informs us. And now we get to a key word. And every scientist among you out there, physicist, chemist, biologist, particle physicist, student of black holes, you come to this nth degree of analysis, right? I can talk about sandcastles made of sand and water, tensions of what. See, as soon as I start bringing water into the mix, no pun intended, of building a castle in the sand, and I start to describe to you that those grains of sand are adhering into a formation, not because grains of sand like to do that, is because there's a dynamic between the hydro pressures, the atmosphere. There's a lot of components, if you dig into the physics, the physical sciences of it, that the sand granules are adhering to one another via moisture, water, and the properties of the water on the surfaces of the grains. Oh, now we're getting, that's too much. Well, what I'm describing is information. And if you keep digging, again, no pun intended, into the nature of water molecules and the silicates and the various components of sand granules and on and on and on, right? You get to molecules, the nature of an atom, the minute but prevalent everywhere forces, the nature of the way energies attract, detract, repel, gravity, anti-gravity, all of it. And ultimately, I mean, what are we doing as human beings? Let's look at this really simply. As we dig so deeply into the nature of things, we are documenting, measuring, we are creating information. Oh, wait a minute, Sylvain. The information is there, we're just discovering it. Okay, there's the age-old battle. Does science discover? Invent? What's going on? Chicken, egg, chicken, egg. At some point, we just come to this word information, like a black hole where the energy is so intense that nothing can escape a black hole, to the point where, is information actually lost? Did the castle actually disappear? Did the castle disappear because of the water and the nature of sand, or did the castle disappear because it was never really a castle? The formations which we took advantage of to create the information castle was never an extant permanent thing. It was a construction. But that which the water, the particles of sand, the formations of the planet, the formations of the universe provided for those manifestations, including our interaction, it didn't go anywhere. It's just in a state of rest. A state of rest which doesn't mean nothing, but it does mean no thing, because the moment there's a thing, what do we have? We have the 10 factors. We have the 10 worlds. We have 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. All of that precipitates from the potential, or what I call quiescent energy. That's what the fundament of everything is. That's not very interesting. What is interesting and specific to our experience as human beings is the formations from the amalgams of energy into unfathomable, numerous forms. We are one of those forms. And all the forms around us are built in exactly the same way. That is the equanimity that Buddhism speaks to, that Shakyamuni was trying to, if you can wrap your mind around every thingifying in the universe as being of the same exact process. You, me, my little pet dog, the trees, the air, the sun, then the surprises cease. The unexpected, unreasonable. Because everything is happening concurrently, moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. We don't truly own anything. Ultimately, we don't own identity. It's just a provisional condition from which we emerge a sentience that provides us for, it provides, just like the beaches of every, the sands of every beach, provides the opportunity to build a castle, but it's not just going to appear on its own, is it? We can look at a map, we can look at the satellite view of Google at beaches we may never step on in our lifetimes. But we know with certainty that were we there, we could grab a fistful of sand and start to build things. And that's exciting. That's understanding that everything is possible and that nothing is permanent, that everything is an experience to be witnessed moment to moment, that what was experienced in the past with whatever baggage has been attached to that is a samsaric problem. Buddhism is about the mind. Why can't I put my castle on every beach on the planet? Well, you could. But because you think it doesn't make it so. And even if you travel to every beach in the world, if that's even possible, and built the sand castle in every one of those beaches, would you have built anything? Would it make you, more real? Maybe you get your, as Warhol would say, your 15 minutes of fame. Oh, this person went all over the world and built 1,948 castles in sandy beaches all across the world, right? You know there would be somebody to immediately challenge. Well, you could build 2 castles on every beach. Ha ha ha. What? It's nonsense. But that's the nonsense of samsara. Shakyamuni wasn't saying, eschew samsara, annihilate samsara, stop being aware of sandcastles. That's not what he was saying at all. But people will misunderstand. Just be aware of the process. That your life, your maximal experience of your potentials has nothing to do with how many sandcastles you build. It has everything to do with how are you living this moment. Hopefully you understand that your life is more than a sandcastle. You may say, well, of course, Sylvain, but how many people truly on the planet right now live their lives as though they were sandcastles? Will end their life if their sandcastle appears to be leaving them. Identity politics. Identity politics is that very disease. My castle's better than yours. They're all sand. They're all temporary. The only meaning they have is what you attach yourself to, how you build your identity from. How ridiculous is that when you really understand the impermanence of everything as a construct? So Shakyamuni was begging human minds to perceive that identity could be equated with the entire picture. That every breath you take is supporting a mentation, a mental perception that there are no separations between the ocean, the sandcastle, the earth, everything. That these are just little moments of wonder, of, wow, look what energy can do. Look what the big I, can do. Because in the big I am you, you are me, and we are all together. Cuckoo-ca-choo. Yeah, I mean, we've had popular music trying to send this message into our brains, and we're at a stage right now, and I don't want to say it can't get any worse, because we humans are pretty damn creative when it comes to attachment and But yeah, to me, one of the certain currents going on in our societies today, this identity politics. Wow. Come on. It's so base. It's completely enraptured in our animality, in our world of anger. Just, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. All right. With that long introduction, and I hope it's feeding your understanding. I know I talk about this stuff, sometimes I do these videos and I think, do they really want to hear me talk about this again? And then I start talking and these ideas come to my mind and I know it's from my practice, and so I let it go. And I think somehow I'm going to say something today a little different, and there's going to be certain minds out there of yours that are going to go, oh, now I get what he's been babbling about all this time. Oh, that means something to me. I think I get that. That's what the Sangha is for, right? To get those little aha, renge moments. So I continue to do these. This is a new Gosho we're now going to read, and we're getting down to, I think, the last 3 or 4 letters here in this book I put together, Nichiren On Karma. The recitation of the expedient means in the lifespan chapters. Da-da-da-da, we're talking about Gango. Right? The expedient means is Hoben, the 2nd chapter of the 28 of the Lotus Sutra. And the lifespan chapter, the 16th, I believe, in some translations, the 15th. The lifespan of the Tathagata chapter. And this is the Juryo chapter, right? These are the 2 chapters of the Lotus Sutra that are essential, that Nichiren identified as essential. Well, let me correct my words. The Daimoku, Namo Myo Renge Kyo, is what Nichiren identified as the essential practice. This is, you can't not do that. That is the method for self-enlightenment. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. In addition to chanting, because at some point you're going to go, what the hell am I doing? What is this actually? Because we're curious monkeys, or sorry, apes, or energies, amalgams of human experience, right? And we want to know how stuff works. Not because we have to know how stuff works, but because doubts creep in. That's samsara. That's the attachment bug in our, what should we call it? Our local network, our mind. And when doubts appear in our imagination, if we don't resolve them, they become attachment to sandcastles. So how do we get rid of those obstacles, those doubts? We do some studying. We read more than just those 2 chapters, because in the other chapters, there are lessons for us to more deeply perceive these basic ones, these on-the-nose ones. Information. Yeah. And so by reading the entire Lotus Sutra, as Nichiren describes, every now and again, every day, every whatever, it's a more complete practice. But it's only more complete in that it makes our conviction, our strength of confidence in our daimoku inassailable. Because ultimately, it's about Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Just invoke Buddha-ness. But the doubts can thwart our confidence. So we read the entire sutra. That's more informative, more confidence building, and ultimately that may not be enough because human. Right? Samsara. So in addition to reading the entire Lotus Sutra and our daimoku, always daimoku, we study beyond that. Certain words, certain phrases, we are reading translations after all, leave us, I don't hear it that way. I don't see it that way, right? I talk about this all the time. I need more information. Oh, yes, information. If we just build a bigger sandcastle, it won't go away. Okay. It's our experience, so we must satisfy it. So we study. We go beyond the Lotus Sutra. We read the other sutras. Sutras that were provisional, that lead to a greater understanding, so that when we get to the Lotus Sutra, oh, I know what that means. Oh, I know what that's about. Oh, gosh, I'm so smart. I know what this means now. Samsara. Continue to study. Shakyamuni said it first. He said, you know what? Don't just study Buddhism. Study all of Buddhism. Study all of Buddhism and the other competing non-Buddhist, non-thinking like this. Study everything until you exhaust every doubt in your samsaric mind. The point is not to become an incredible scholar. It's not necessary. The point is remove all doubt. As Nichiren says, single-mindedly, in other words, with a mind of complete conviction, knowing that without conflict, without distraction, without doubt, that every time you chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, Buddhism, Buddha-ness, correct perception of ongoing moment-to-moment suchnesses, the expression of formations, is not only occurring, but that you yourself are in witness and participation in it every moment. Yes, I see it. I feel it. Wow. There's that word again, wow. If I could only come up with a better word. Oh, Buddha. Awakening. Buddha wisdom. Oh, here we go now. We're just modeling information. It's not important what we call it. What's important is recognizing the moment-to-moment being of everything at once into the next, the momentum that we're experiencing. That is the core of life. All life. No identity necessary. Right? Sand is sand. And it's everywhere. It's not just where we built our castle. Oh, duh. Well, duh. This is exactly what Shakyamuni was saying. And every bodhisattva since then has been dissecting this ad nauseum to make it more and more obvious. How much doubt must Nagarjuna have had, Vasubandhu have had, Tendai have had, Miaolo, Dengyo, all the names you're familiar with, and others. Vajra, the list goes on and on. These scholars who wrote on every minute aspect of Buddha's teachings was addressing doubt. But the teaching has never changed. It's never evolved. No, don't get me wrong. Many cultures and peoples and teachers have imposed their own traditions on it. And this is why we have so many flavors of Buddhism. But again, I will say there is only one Buddhism. What we have is all these traditions and, unfortunately, tripwires. Because they're following agendas, whether they meant to or not, that are pulling you away from this fundamental, very simple truth. That's Buddhism. And Nichiren, for all of his efforts, is doing his best for us modern people, quote unquote, to get this point through. And this is what makes him so upset with these other competing, quote unquote, again, agencies calling themselves Buddhism, using the words of Shakyamuni and others and changing their order, adding their own. They're creating traditions that ultimately they don't support the ultimate truth. They support some agenda, whether it's politics, ego, whatever. Doesn't matter. The problem is that it misleads others. You want to believe in the spaghetti monster in the sky, through using the words of Buddha, you're making those causes for yourself. But the moment you start to influence others to think that way, this is when Nichiren stands in and says, you're an enemy of Buddha. Not Shakyamuni Buddha, Buddha-ness. You're putting a huge wall of doubt in front of people who are simply trying to perceive the truth. How dare you? Is this not Nichiren? Yeah. All right. So let me actually speak a little bit on this letter. The recitation of the expedient means and lifespan chapters. In the letter you sent by messenger, this is Nichiren now, you say that you used to recite one chapter of the Lotus Sutra every day, completing the entire sutra in the space of 28 days. That's an interesting practice. Just take the entire sutra, and for what we could call gangyo of sorts, right? It's a recitation. This is what we're told constantly from Shakyamuni, right? Recite, read, copy, right? So what I'm going to do in my practice is I'm going to read the first chapter. Maybe you even broaden your scope, not only the Lotus, but the introductory chapter, the immeasurable meanings, whatever, right? The immeasurable meanings, that's 3 chapters. So that's 3 days. You start your week on Sunday or Monday, whatever. You read a chapter. You recite it. You sing it out loud. And the next day, the next chapter. The next day, the next chapter, right? Until you read all of the chapters. Now you've completed a month's practice. Okay? Not uncommon those days. But now you read the Medicine King chapter once a day. One time, 1 month of reciting all of these chapters, and it hits you hard, this one chapter. Maybe it's the Treasure Tower chapter, whatever. And you go, I'm just going to recite this chapter every day because there's something in that's really affecting me. I'm really impacted by this one. So that's the one you choose. And that's how you practice, yeah? You ask if you should simply read each chapter in turn as you were originally doing. Maybe I'm screwing up. Maybe what I was doing is more important. Okay? As for the Lotus Sutra, one may recite the entire sutra of 28 chapters in 8 volumes every day. Or one may recite only 1 volume, or 1 chapter, or 1 verse. How long would it take you to complete the whole sutra then? Or 1 phrase, or 1 word. You know what this takes us back to? Nichiren has already talked about every single word, the 69,384 characters, not even words, are all myo. Remember that? Or one may simply chant the Daimoku, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, only once a day, or chant it only once in the course of a lifetime. Can you see why it's important that when somebody is curious or asking, that the first thing you do is teach them how to chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo? Just get them to chant it, to say it. It's so important. Or hear someone else chant it only once in a lifetime and rejoice in hearing it. There's the key word, rejoice in hearing it. In other words, how can you have confidence in something that you've never heard before? There's the difficulty of being a bodhisattva, right? Do you present this chant casually? Do you present it with, look, all of Buddhism is about this one phrase. If you just repeat it, it will calm you, it will change your life. Here, say it after me. Oh, wow, you've introduced this now as something powerful. Some people might run away. So how do you present it to others? Honestly, I would say to you, just be honest. How do you say this phrase, yeah? the daimoku. Or rejoice in hearing the voice of someone else, rejoice in hearing it. There's a clue. So when you say, so there's this Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, or you go, there's this song, this chant that we do that awakens in us our ultimate potential. It was Namu. Wow, look at the excitement in my eyes. Myoho Renge Kyo. It's amazing. Try it. Do it with me. Namu. Wow, your excitement, your conviction coming through. Yeah, it's important. Attitude and intent, my friends. And so on in this matter to the 50th hearer. Right? So think of that. I'm going to teach this person how to say Namo Myoho Renge Kyo with the idea in mind that they're going to share it with people I don't know. And by the time it's shared to the 50th person that I'm completely unaware of, it's going to have the same intent and attitude that I'm imbuing it with this person. Right? It sounds simple, but there's a lot of meat to what Nichiren is saying here. And if one were to be at the end, after that 50th person, even if one's resolve were weak and one's sense of rejoicing deluded, like the frailty of a child of 2 or 3, or the inability of a cow or horse to distinguish before from after, the rewards one would gain would be 100,000, 10,000 million times greater than those gained by persons of keen faculties and superior wisdom who study other sutras, who've sunk their investment of time and conviction in other prior provisional teachings that may not even be the words of Shakyamuni. Yeah? Persons such as Shariputra, he's not talking about any slouches here, yeah? Maudgalyayana, Manjushri, and Maitreya, who had committed to memory the entire text of all the various sutras. Wow, attitude and intent, so central. We find this mentioned in both the Lotus Sutra and the 60-volume commentary by Tendai and Miao. Once again, Nietzsche is saying, it's not just me saying this. There's quite a history of people, scholars, who point this out. Thus, the sutra states concerning these rewards, quote, even the Buddha wisdom could never finish calculating their extent. Again, an exhortation to say that your true awakening of the engine of life, it's immeasurable. You can't even conceive it. All you can do is endeavor to be in it. That's enlightenment. That's awakening. Not even the wisdom of the Buddha can fathom the rewards such a person will attain. In this case, he's talking about Shakyamuni. No matter how wise this man is in his experience of Buddha-ness, can he experience what you are experiencing? Because individuation, our freight trains of karma, the way we come to Buddha-ness. Once you're in Buddha-ness and perceive suchness moment to moment to moment, you're there. We all share that potential. But how we get there, how we arrive at that awakening, it's specific. That's why it's an individual practice. The Buddha wisdom is so marvelous that it knows even the number of raindrops that fall in this major world system during a period, for instance, of 7 days or twice 7 days. And yet we read that the rewards acquired by one who recites no more than a single word of the Lotus Sutra are the one thing it cannot fathom. How then could ordinary people like ourselves, who have committed grave offenses, possibly understand these rewards, these experiences. Right? So stop identifying and start experiencing. That's the underlying message here, right? All right. I'm going to pause there. We hit on some very core teachings here, haven't we? I want this to be meaningful to you. I want you to hear what I'm trying to say, what Nichiren is trying to say, what Shakyamuni has been saying. Experience completely, totally your moment-to-moment life connected. When you're, think about this. Here's a mental experiment I'll leave you with. It just came to mind. If you can actually, and I say if, when you actually experience that equanimity, that integration into suchness, is there a thing? When you are everything and everything is you, are there things? In my mind, that kind of defines the border between samsara and Buddhiness, doesn't it? We don't want to extinguish samsara. It's what provides us this ability. But we just want to cease being driven by it, owned by it. Because ultimately, as many Western fables have told us, the more we own, the more we are owned. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Thank you for your support. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps grow the Sangha, a Bodhisattva act. If you can, purchase ebooks on threefoldlotus.com or print books on Lulu. There are some ebooks there as well. Don't get confused. You see different prices for the same book. It's because one's print and one's ebook, right? Get a proper mandala. Just make your practice strong. Just chant. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. That's the essential practice. If there's some way, those of you who've decided to become patrons and offer some donations monthly, either through Patreon or one-time donations, maybe directly to PayPal. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. We're all super grateful for your support. But any way you choose to support, even if it's just liking and subscribing, it's very meaningful, very important. It's like chanting your first daimoku, yeah? So keep that strong. Keep your practice strong. Keep your health. Helps you practice. And in the meantime, don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself. It'll help you be kind to others. Because it's all about appreciating this opportunity, living this moment, this moment, this moment. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for your commitment to do that. And with that, I'll leave you today, and I'll rejoin you in the next blah, blah, blah. We'll read more of Gongyo and Nichiren's instruction. Until then, bye for now.